Evening, y'all. Proverbs 25. These are more Proverbs of Solomon compiled by the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings. As the heavens are high and the earth is deep, so the hearts of kings are unsearchable. Remove the dross from the silver, and a silversmith can produce a vessel. Remove wicked officials from the king's presence, and his throne will be established through righteousness. Do not exalt yourself in a king's presence, and do not proclaim a place among his great men. It is better for him to say to you, "Come up here," than for him to humiliate you before his nobles. What have you seen with your eyes? What you have seen with your eyes do not bring hastily to court, for what you will do in the end if your neighbor puts you to shame. If you take your neighbor to court, do not betray another's confidence, or the one who hears it may shame you, and the charge against you will stand. Like apples of gold and settings of silver is a ruling rightly given. Like an earring of gold or an ornament of fine gold is the rebuke of a wise judge to a listening ear. Like a snow-cooled drink at harvest time is a trustworthy messenger to the one who sends him. He refreshes the spirit of his master. Like clouds and wind without rain is one who boasts of gifts never given. Through patience a ruler can be persuaded, a gentle tongue can break a bone. If you find honey, eat just enough. Too much of it and you will vomit. Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house. Too much of you, they will hate you. Like a club or a sword or a sharp arrow is one who gives false testimony against a neighbor. Like a broken tooth or a lame foot is reliance on the unfaithful in time of trouble. Like one who takes away a garment on a cold day, or like vinegar poured on a wound is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he gets thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. Like a north wind that brings unexpected rain is a sly tongue, which provokes a horrified look. Better live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. Like cold water to a weary soul and good news from a distant land, like a muddy spring or a polluted well, are the righteous who give way to the wicked. It is not good to eat too much honey, nor is it honorable to search out matters that are too deep. Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. So that's Proverbs 25. Verse 2, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, and to search out a matter is the glory of kings. A couple things I wrote in the margins here. Some by me a while ago, and some by the folks who made this Bible, because it's one of the ones that's got like the little stuff in the side of it. They say, how does God receive glory? By concealing a matter. Though a ruler searches out matters to be a good leader, the mysteries of God cannot be fully known. God has not told us everything about himself. He has preserved an element of mystery surrounding his personality and his purposes, leaving us in awe of him. God receives glory because we cannot know everything about him. Something I have written too is we are not owed an explanation for everything, but in good faith things can be revealed when he deems the time is right. So if you don't ever understand everything about God, congratulations, you're in a big club. Nobody does. Anybody who claims to have the insight's probably wrong, right? And if they claim to be a prophet, you read the Old Testament, there's ways to test them if they're a true prophet or a false one. And per the Old Testament, if they're a false prophet, you're allowed to stone them to death, right? Which is something that probably some folks today should be reminded of, right? Just being honest. But with God being an infinite God and us being finite people, there's no chance whatsoever, any explanation whatsoever on how we could ever fully understand him, right? Sometimes we will get an explanation for something and sometimes we won't, right? I think that God calls himself the Father for a reason, because while our relationship with Jesus is more of husband and wife, our relationship with the Father is more father-son, right? And if you've ever had a good parent, sometimes they'll tell you to do something, especially for toddlers, right? They'll go, why? And sometimes the answer is because I told you, right? And it's not necessarily a I don't want you to know thing, or I don't know the answer thing. It's I don't have time to explain it, and we're on a timeline that they might not understand, right? The kids might not eat breakfast, or might not eat breakfast fast, because they don't understand that we got somewhere to be, whether it's school or church or getting on a road trip or whatever, right? They don't fully comprehend time at that age, right? I think sometimes that's the way the Father deals with us, right? I firmly believe, and have to be careful how I say this, right? Being subject to change. The Bible does not tell us everything, but it tells us what we need to know for eternal salvation. And even then, you read the Bible and you might know all the words front to back before you kick the bucket, right? But as far as fully understanding the entire book is more than one lifetime's worth of work. But everything that you need to know is in here, and you can grasp the basics pretty quick. And the other things that you grasp are for deeper understanding, and to have enough knowledge to be able to mentor somebody or teach someone, or when people have hard questions, you can give them hard answers, right? You don't expect easy answers to hard questions. Also, when it says it is the matter to search out a matter is the glory of a king, anytime I read something like that, as long as it's not capital K indicating the big guy Jesus, right? What goes through my mind is in the Old Testament where it says, I have called you to be a nation of kings and priests, which means congratulations if you're a guy at some point in your life. If you're head of a household, you are king of your household and priest of your household, right? You need to be able to be diplomatic. You need to be able to wage war. You need to be able to explain things, to lead your family spiritually. A lot of things. And if it sounds like a lot of pressure for you to be able to do on your own, congratulations. It's because you're not supposed to do it on your own. You're supposed to be able to have a wife who can help you. And not help as in like she's your servant, but help as in she's your equal and she covers your blind spots. And even then, if it sounds like something's too big for both of you to do, again, congratulations. It's supposed to be. If you don't have Christ in the center of your marriage, you're missing the strongest of three pillars that's going to keep everything from tipping over, right? So if it's the glory of kings to search that kind of stuff out, and as a guy, congratulations, you ought to be searching that stuff out in some form or fashion. At least that's how I think of it, right? Do not exalt yourself in the king's presence, and do not claim a place among his great men. It is better for him to say to you, come up here, than for him to humiliate you before his nobles, right? Don't try to make yourself too big and bad in front of people of authority, right? Let your work and your life speak for you. And if they need you for something or want you for something, they'll let you know. But to try to strong arm your way into something usually doesn't pan out too good. Look at the people who tried to strong arm Jesus. Every single one of them got rebuked, right? Or at least got a reality check in it. Also, I kind of see a parallel here on kind of the end of it all. Whenever we get to heaven, right? We can't exalt ourselves in front of God and expect him to treat us with any kind of really respect for what we've done on earth, right? Because no matter what you've done on earth, it's not going to impress God, because he's infinite and we're not, right? He's literally seen it all before, the good, the bad, the ugly. Nothing you can do can impress him, right? But you can be found righteous in him through Jesus, and that's whenever he'll say, come on up here, right? Instead of you being humiliated, thinking you were going to stand at the pearly gates and be able to drop kick your way in and be left outside weeping and gnashing of teeth, right? Let's see. One I find hilarious is where it just says, seldom set foot in your neighbor's house. Too much of you and they will hate you. I love how the Bible just has at least a verse in there. It's like, hey man, don't be too annoying, right? If you got that kind of relationship with somebody, you can just drop by their house and say hey and stuff like that. By all means, have yourself a fantastic relationship with somebody. That being said, don't bug the ever-living mess out of somebody without a purpose, right? Hold them accountable for something, or if you need help or anything like that or whatever, right? Go for it, but don't just bug people for the sake of bugging people. Like a broken tooth or a lame foot is reliance on the unfaithful in time of trouble. The way I kind of read that is those things suck and those things hurt. As somebody who has broken a foot multiple times and broken arms and all kinds of stuff, right? They're not fun. Sorry, I'm getting alive by mosquitoes, so you probably see me dancing. Those things are not fun, but they don't kill you, right? But they definitely make the experience way worse, right? And that's like having reliance on somebody who is unfaithful in a time of trouble, right? Whenever crap hits the fan is not the time to have somebody on your side who's a flake. You need to have your real homies sorted out by then as best you can, right? Surround yourself with people that you would go to war with and that would go to war with you. I'm not saying you can't have casual friendships, because you should. But you shouldn't be reliant on those people whenever rough times hit, right? If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. Be generous and show grace and show mercy, because from my understanding, the kind of grace and mercy that you show other people is going to be kind of the kind of mercy and grace that you're shown before judgment, right? If that doesn't convict you right there, I don't know how else to wake you up. That being said, I don't think that that the righteous are called to be pushovers, right? You don't let these people stomp all over you all the time. I don't think that's something that we're called to be at all. Excuse me. That being said, the people who are your enemies today might end up being your friends tomorrow, right? And not through anything you've done, but through the supernatural transformation of Jesus Christ. People that you might have considered enemies might one day be somebody that you're in the trenches with. And sometimes that's the only way to bring somebody to Christ, is to show them compassion they've never even heard of before. There's plenty of prisoners and gang members and jihadists and people out there who have come to Christ because somebody they were trying to kill showed them compassion instead of taking their life when they had an opportunity. And again, I don't necessarily mean that that you're called to be a pushover or anything like that, right? In fact, you're supposed to be more like a roaring lion, right? You ought to be able to spiritually throw hands at any time, right, and be able to absolutely smack down, not by your power, by the power of God through you, right? But you ought to have that attitude. But that being said, whenever it's time for compassion, man, it's time for uncompromised compassion. Going up a little bit, like one who takes away a garment on a cold day, or like vinegar poured on a wound, is one who sings to a heavy heart. Mourn with those who mourn, right? That's written in the New Testament. You mourn with those who mourn, you rejoice with those who rejoice, right? There was that Proverbs earlier about how you don't want to essentially say the wrong thing at the wrong time, right? Like, it's an extreme example, right? But if somebody's kid died, that ain't necessarily the time to be like, well, Jesus has a plan for it, right? Like, that person's mourning, right? They lost something precious to them, and yes, Jesus has a plan for it, right? I think he takes kids' souls into consideration a lot. He does not take that lightly. And if you think he does, then you ain't read the Bible, right? Anytime it mentions somebody killing a kid, man, it's an absolute abomination to God Almighty. But if there's any time that anybody misconstrues the Bible to A kid dying by like God's hand or something like that. He's taking that kid's soul into account, right? God doesn't dish out life randomly or willy-nilly. Every single person that's got breath in their lungs has a purpose. And some people are too afraid to look for theirs. Some people never want to find theirs. And there are some folks that, bless their heart, their purpose just really ain't that exciting, but it's necessary. But anyways, that being said, when somebody's mourning, take time to mourn with them, right? Definitely offer condolences, offer prayer, but don't offer just prayer. Offer to take them food, clean their house. Hey, if you got the money for it, like cover like a month of bills or something like that. Like, hey, give me your electric bill this month or something, right? Do something not only practical for them. We've read time and time again that you'll be judged by what you do, not just what you say, right? It's a good thing to pray for people when they're mourning. It's better to do something about it, right? And kind of do the appropriate thing, if that makes any sense. Like cold water to a weary soul is good news from a distant land, and like a muddied spring or a polluted well are the righteous who have gave way to the wicked. Righteousness, I think, this is probably where I'm going to differ from a lot of other Christians and things like that, right? I think there's a point for whenever you're saved. This is just me spitballing, right? Trying to put into words what I genuinely believe in my soul. Some folks are going to disagree with it, and that's okay. If you want to message or leave a comment saying that I'm wrong and why, I'd love to read it, right? I like to think I'm not as much of a fool as I once was, but still a pretty big fool. So hey, if you got some instruction for me, let me know. At least in my personal journey, it's the only journey I can attest to, and 100% confidence, right? There was a point where I was saved, right? And I would sin, and I would kind of feel bad, or I would ignore it, and I would eventually feel okay, right? Never sing the right songs in church, and I'd get little goosebumps, and I'd go about my day, right? But I don't think that I was actually like saved. And then there came a point a couple years ago where it was actually on Easter. Felt a conviction to get baptized. They were doing a church. Didn't do it because I was a coward. Ended up really getting to do it later that day with my dad in a river behind the house. And I can remember after that, something felt different. It was almost like a little voice said, like, it's stuck this time, right? Like it's finally clicked. And don't get me wrong, I've sinned since then. And still fight with certain things. That sucked to fight. But I feel like the difference now is that I'm not actively choosing to reject salvation or abuse grace, right? But that has to be a conscious effort every day, you know. New Testament, take up your cross daily and follow me, right? Deny yourself. You have to make a conscious effort every day, in attempting to be as righteous as best you know how, through believing in Jesus and doing what he says. Otherwise, if you get complacent or apathetic, which is more damaging than being malicious, I think, right? Like a muddied spring or a polluted well are the righteous who give way to the wicked. There are righteous folk that get so caught up in them being righteous that they stop being righteous, and they start being arrogant. And in their arrogance, they start being wicked. So that's something to watch out for. Definitely. That's what all that rambling was about, right? Basically, I believe that there are folks who are righteous and do lose their salvation through not intentionally cultivating what they can in the garden of their life and having faith in God producing a harvest that's worth harvesting. I think a big thing in that isn't necessarily those people like one day just waking up and choosing to reject salvation. It's a death of a million compromises over and over and over again. There are small compromises that stack up. And next thing you know, you're apathetic, right? And you don't even know it. Sometimes it takes a heck of a wake-up call for you to realize that you're that way. Good news, you can always come back, right? That's the beauty of the gospel. There's no crazy nirvana you have to achieve by living a perfect life. There's no try again on your next incarnation, right? Hope you don't come back as a cockroach. There's no, oh, you rejected Jesus once whenever you stole a pack of gum from 7-Eleven when you were 8 years old, right? Now you're going to burn in hell forever because you sinned once. All the way up to your last breath, you have a choice to return to the Father. But all the way up to your last chance, you have to choose to walk with the Father. Right? If you're going with the marriage analogy that Jesus likes to use between him and the church, right? Use marriage as an analogy. Most marriages these days I don't think in because somebody actively decides to do something stupid like cheat or whatever. It's just because people fall out of love because they get apathetic and they stop choosing to love the other person. I think like a 40% divorce rate in America testifies to that, right? So don't let your well be polluted. Don't let your spring get muddied up, right? Don't allow yourself to be apathetic. If you got to make one choice today, choose to follow him as best you can. Whenever you wake up the next day, just make that same choice. Evening, y'all.